So I'm driving out to what we call is the home field, and it is a slightly drizzly mid-May day in Maine, and I just want to do some exploratory work today. So this is the farm, and we want to be able to put some irrigation in. I've got a cooking pavilion out here and a place to spend the night. I just want some, it doesn't have to be potable water, but a source of water for plants and garden and whatnot. And we don't have any power back here, and I don't really want to spend the money on the infrastructure for let me get through this mud hole, for power and a drilled well. So if you look out the window right now, this is kind of a little gully, and yeah, right there, and it's wet almost all year long. We'll be going downhill of this a couple hundred yards, and I want to see about building a little cistern that will self-fill, like a little well that I can then use either a solar pump or a motorized pump to bring the water uphill and store it 5-6 feet above the ground with a little spigot on it, maybe in a 55-gallon tank or something like that. So I just want to, this really rocky ground around here. Hard to dig a hole without finding a bunch of stuff in the way. So I scouted out yesterday, and I just wanted to dig a preliminary hole to see how successful it will be to maybe put that well in. And so here in middle of here in Maine, we've gotten inundated with ticks over the last 15 years. Miserable little creatures, but we'll see what we can do. So we're in the home field, which this isn't the best angle for it. It's pretty overgrown, but eventually we'll want to have a house in here. Got the pants tucked in to the socks, trying to keep the ticks down, and we'll do a count by the end just to see how many we have on. But we'll want to bring that water up somewhere around here eventually. Now let's go down and take a look at where we're going to put a hole. I had this bush hogged 2 years ago. I didn't get to it last year, but that bittersweet, which is an invasive here in central Maine, grows awfully fast. You can keep it mowed down, it's manageable, but if you let it go at all, it's a mess. So we have 2 or 3 natural springs I found on the land, and I don't know much about how water works, but it seems like if we've got a few around, we might have brown water quite close to the surface. And then that area I referenced earlier, we're down of that a couple hundred yards, and it's usually wet along here. It's a very wet spring in Maine. So, I don't know, I was kind of thinking it'd be easier might be better to do in a dry time of year to get a better idea of where the lowest groundwater is, but I want to do it today. So it's kind of looking at this spot right in here. Already a natural depression. This was all farmland at one point, and there are a couple old wells closer to the road which are unfunctional. But I was thinking, gee, someone might have had a watering hole for livestock at one point, and I scouted both sides of this yesterday and couldn't find anything. So I'm just going to experiment and try to dig down here and see if I can get it all down in the water table and see what happens. Watched some videos, and it seems like all the areas that people were doing hand dug wells were either clay or sand, and they didn't have much to contend with. But we got rocks everywhere. And it's pretty wet, so I don't know when they're digging how they keep the bottom from falling in on them. But I just thought we'd try it anyway and see what happens. Look at that, 3 shovels without a rock. That's rare for this area. That was a joke. 5 maybe, but you can do 3. Getting some clay in there. Don't find too much clay right around here, so that's interesting. I think the clay is a good sign. So, didn't find it all what I thought I'd find so far. And got down through the loam top part and hit solid clay. And it's slow going. So, I've got about an hour in. Note to self, if you're going to dig a hole, you should make it big enough that you can maneuver a long-handled shovel down inside it. Because I'm finding that this hole is already a little bit too narrow for this size tool. I might have to switch to a shorthand shovel or short handle shovel, or make my hole bigger. And this is really meant to be an exploratory thing to see if I could make a collection system. It's changing as we go. I actually am taking the dirt, clay as I'm digging up and tossing it between me and where the little creek bed is, because I want to stop any runoff from there for the time being and just see, am I getting any groundwater coming into this. And I'll give it another couple hours, maybe not today, but plug along through it. I might want to bring a digging bar down here and short-handled shovel, spade. But I'll check in with you in a bit. So I've got 2 hours in. That's pretty sloggy. Slow going. Good half inch of clay building up on the boots. It's starting to get a little soft in the bottom and easier going, but I still have to keep it round. So I have to kind of scrape from the sides to keep it round and get that out, so I'm not making much depth. But when I do get down there, it is softer. I'm seeing some damp maybe coming in. If it is, it's really slow. So, about 2 hours work. not a lot to show for it. Except one tick. So it's wet down in here. I hit a wet spot in here. I might have covered it up again, but you can see that. Might have just been a little pocket, not a rivulet. So, safety tip for all the old folks doing it when you're jamming your shovel in, just be mindful of your shoulders. If you can keep your elbows tucked in a little bit more, it's less stress when that hits that hard packed clay. So I'm gonna get them out, trying to keep them tight. It seems to help. And don't let your arms overwork your shoulder strength.